What's up, Rovers? Today we're going to be taking a look at Yuanwu, the fashionably dressed, lethal boxer from Wuthering Waves. He's an electro DPS that offers a very different kit than what most DPSs usually have. Now, this video is not strictly advocating you to build Yuanwu, but to give a better understanding on what he does in practice and why he will be someone you might want to build in the future. If you look around, pretty much almost all major theory crafter sites do not have a full review up on him, yet he appears on their tier lists, usually rather low. Why is this? And what does this mean? Let's take a closer look. Do keep in mind, tier lists are typically reflective of the current state of the game and character progression. This video is going to be split into talking about Yuanwu's scaling, Yuanwu's kit, and Yuanwu's team synergies. Let's talk about the most dubious topic first, his scaling. Yuanwu is a defense scaling character, which makes things awkward because your typical DPS pieces won't work well on him. But on the other hand, it means your crappy defense substat pieces you kept getting now have a proper use. He doesn't compete with your other DPS units for the same echo pieces. This is excellent for the long term, reducing how much you need to shuffle gear around. More importantly, we need to talk about where defense comes from. Not defense percent or flat, defense innate. In the current damage equation, we can see attack of your character plus weapon gets multiplied by any attack percent present on your rotations and gear, and then gets plus flat attack from echoes added after. Your character and weapons attack makes much more difference than flat attack, as those are not affected by attack percent. A typical unit at level 70 has roughly 300 attack and gets about 300 to 350 from their weapon. This is 650 attack that can be affected by attack percent. At level 90 units and weapons, these same stats reach roughly 900 to 1000 attack overall. The 350 flat attack from echo main stats and possible substats still do matter, even if added last, just at reduced total scaling since they ignore attack percent. But what if we look at Yuanwu, who converts damage from defense? At level 70, he has 1,243 defense. At level 90, he has 1,637. While both attack and defense scaling characters are roughly 1.35 times stronger at level 90, Yuanwu's raw higher defense scaling means you are not as dependent on a good weapon attack to make him work. Passives and defense percent matters a lot more, because his massive flat defense is actually innate to his base defense and not from echo main stats and substats. It's actually affected by defense percent. This makes defense percent substats extremely important since it affects his entire massive defense stat. But this causes another problem. Leveling him to 90 is extremely important since it is his only way of getting that big innate defense. So why does this matter? Everyone gets level 25 gold echoes way before getting level 90 characters. You will also have reasonably good echo set substats later, before characters reach level 90 as well. Therefore, attack scaling characters can fully benefit from the 350 flat attack of boss and elite echo main stats, even by level 50 and 60. In other words, attack scaling characters have front-loaded returns on guaranteed investment, making them sheet better for DPS. Substats determine the rest but are completely RNG. Yuanwu, on the other hand, cannot benefit from weapon attack flat main stats nor from attack flat echo main stats, which are normally guaranteed sources of more damage. Because its primary source of scaling is his levels, he is very restricted by world level for character levels and forte skill level caps. He has worse return on investment per resource spent earlier on as a result, compared to normal attack scaling DPSs. However, because he gets absolutely insane amounts of defense by level 90, he will catch up and be competitive with other DPS options while performing his role. He will not topple the top DPSs obviously, but most of his DPS comes from reaching level 90. This means he's actually underperforming the typical DPS growth chart at level 60s and 70s and is one of only two late bloomers in the game, the other being Tao Chi. So what does this mean for his kit? Currently, he's already a good option because he brings much faster shield breaks, hyper armor, and at higher sequences, shields for the team. This is already enough for people to consider bringing him, since the amount of comfort and survivability he gives to dual carry or even hyper carry comps cannot be ignored. We're at the point in the game where DPS is slowly becoming less important outside of the final layer of tower, and people will start focusing on more comfort. From this point forwards, this is where theory crafters and builders will start noticing that other DPSs only get moderately stronger from level 70 to 90, but Yuanwu will see a massive damage spike in DPS to steadily close the gap. This means he will be able to go from a comfortable support with respectable damage to a viable strong dual carry or sub DPS. More importantly, there isn't even a proper 5-star defense gauntlet in the game yet that would work to his strength, so Yuanwu's full potential still remains untapped. Let's discuss his kit next. In a proper team, he should only be on-fielded when his Forte circuit is full, meaning he will always be DPSing in the lightning-infused state. This is easily achievable since his totem builds his Forte even when off-field. This matters because his normal state is purely attack scaling on basics, whereas everything from his lightning infused state is defense scaling instead. A level 90 Yuanwu can easily reach over 4,000 total defense with just a 4-star rank 0 Amity Accord. A 5-star defense percent gauntlet would realistically let him pass 5,000 defense with ease. Compare this to DPS units only reaching roughly 2,000 to 2,500 attack at level 90 on a full build. Therefore, Yuanwu would only need about half the movement value on his kit to match the DPS of a level 90 DPS. And that's the thing. He actually does have that. Here's the other kicker. Shield damage outside of intros, outros, and parries is scaled off of raw damage from the move used. This means Yuanwu's shield breaking power will scale up significantly on his way to level 90 just by pure virtue of defense innate almost exclusively scaling from his levels only. Other DPSs scale their attack from innate, weapon, and echo flat main stats, as well as percent, meaning they have already reached most of their raw DPS by level 70, and are only really limited by Forte's skill level caps and echo RNG substats. Because Yuanwu's Forte circuit magnifies all shield damage of his enhanced moveset by a multiplicative amount, he will be able to absolutely destroy shield bars from enemies at level 90 from just basic attack strings, as well as his heavy attacks, and his massive ult hit, etc. And unlike other units, his outro also counts as 1 unit of melee shield damage. Normally, units only deal this kind of damage on their intro and not outro, whereas he has it on both. Range units also deal reduced shield damage on their intro too. So what about sequences? Yuanwu has really good sequences for a 4-star unit. His S1, 20% attack speed buff. Read this as deals damage and breaks shield slightly less than 20% faster when on field, as well as a bit less than 20% more DPS during his enhanced state. His S2 just gives an easier ult rotation, which is fine because he deals roughly 352% defense scaling at level 10. But remember, it's defense scaling and Yuanwu will end up with roughly 2 times the defense that most carries have as attack. So this is roughly equivalent to a 700% attack scaling ult. Nothing crazy, but respectable for a non-ult oriented unit. Now his S3 is where the big stuff is. Normally his off-fielding coordinated damage has only 8% defense scaling at level 10, which is honestly kinda poor. This buffs it to 28%, or almost quadruple scaling. 28% of 4,000 to 5,000 defense, or on a attack scaling DPS is about 56% attack scaling on a 2,000 to 2,500 attack build. In comparison, Mortefi's coordinated attacks of his Liberation are only 32% attack at level 10. Now, Yuanwu's S4 plays well off his S2, since ending his rotation with an ult grants a 200% defense scaling shield, or about 8,000 to 10k hit point shield for your next swapping unit. S5 is not as important since ult percent is diluted by electro percent, but the S6 32% is interesting. It is not too useful for other units since you already get the shield, but for himself is worth 523 more total defense at level 90, or about 10% more final damage on his kit. It has 100% uptime so long as his totem is on the field. Being a standard 4-star, it is likely over time, i.e. when we reach level 90, that you will have several copies of it. Union 50 is 30 days away from Union 40 for a free-to-play, for level 80. Union 60 is roughly 1.5 to 2 months after that, for level 90. You get 1 free Yuanwu from Tower Mode, and he is also on Yinlin's banner now. Finally, let's talk about team synergies. This one is extremely simple and can be broken into 3 parts. He brings damage, survivability, and improves DPS windows. Damage was explained earlier about his defense scaling mechanics and being a late bloomer, so I don't really need to go over that again. The only other thing to mention is that he parries very easily due to his big frontal hitboxes that have a consistent hitbox as it gets shoved into enemies' faces and a little bit of AoE. Also, multi-hits. Survivability, on the other hand, helps your TPSs that have tighter on-field rotations or backloaded in risky setups, like Halchero, Yinlin, Donjin, etc. Now, the shield plus defense from sequences allows your DPS to do their job easier. Improving DPS windows, on the other hand, is done by a significantly increased shield breaking strength. This allows your big carries to unleash their full rotation on a full staggered enemy without needing to worry about interrupts. More frequent full staggers equals more uninterrupted DPS windows. So what does this all mean? I'm not saying to build Yuanwu now if you haven't started, nor should you immediately change your teams to fit him in, but that to expect him to become significantly better in the meta space over the next few months as accounts mature and players progress. Hopefully, this clears up the picture on why Yuanwu is rarely talked about, and why no one really ever gives a clear picture on why it can be useful. Cheers! I do stream almost every single day and we've clocked several hundred hours into WuWa CBT and 1.0 live already. If there are any questions you might have, you might get them answered faster if you stop by while I'm live. Links are down in the description. If this is your first time watching, feel free to leave a like or better yet subscribe. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Stick around if you want to see interesting videos on a nearly daily basis. You don't want to miss out on any of that, do you? That'll be it for this video. Thank you all for watching and see you all next time.
Silence we drown.